Chapter 14, the Autonomic Nervous System. So here we have the somatic nervous system. Somatic, obviously dealing with the senses and sensory stuff like that. We have the effector, dealing with the skeletal muscle. The number of motor neurons in the efferent pathway is single motor from the CNS to the effector. CNS standing for central nervous system, containing the brain and the spinal cord. We have the myelination of the axons. It's myelinated, which means it's fast. So you have the neuron going down the spinal cord to whether it be the hand telling you to get the hand off the burner, jerk it back real quick, or if I were to put my hand into this shredder, quickly getting it out. The neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. The response of the effector to the neurotransmitter is excitation. The autonomic nervous system is a little bit more complex. The effector affects cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and glands. The number of motor neurons in the efferent pathway there's two of them. The first one is at the cell body in the CNS and the axon, and it goes to the ganglion. The second one is the ganglion to the effector. And then we have the myelination of the axons. In this one, the preganglionic axon is lightly myelinated, and the postganglionic is not myelinated. The neurotransmitter in this would be ACH, acetylcholine, and norepinephrine. And the response to the effector to the neurotransmitter is to excite or inhibit. It can do either one. So I got this nice little drawing I just drew of some of the motor neuron chains. Let's start off with the somatic nervous system. So you can see here we have the beginning of the ganglion, and then we have the long myelinated chain all the way down here to the terminal synapse, and the ACH that's released because that is the neurotransmitter. And over here would be whatever the effector is. And the SNS does deal with only the skeletal muscle. Now onto the parasympathetic division. We have a long preganglionic axon chain that's myelinated. It goes all the way down to the synapse, in which it then releases ACH or acetylcholine. And it has a very short non-myelinated chain at the end of the postganglionic synapse here. And the terminal synapse, which obviously connecting to the visceral organ that it wants. Parasympathetic is craniosacral, which means that it comes from the CNS, which is why this part is so long. And this part is so short because it sits right on the visceral organ. Whether that is coming all the way from the CNS, the brainstem coming down to the arm or whatever, or the sacrum, which only operates the reproductive areas. Now we move on to the sympathetic motor division here. And if you remember, it was two parts. We said that in the beginning of the video. There's two parts. We have the the motor pathway coming down from the CNS to the ganglion, and then from the ganglion to the whatever organ it's attaching to. So here we have the preganglion axon, which is myelinated, and the preganglion always release acetylcholine. So it releases the acetylcholine to the postganglionic synapse here, which then goes to the next autonomic postganglionic synapse here, release the ACH onto the visceral organ, and then norepinephrine is put into the bloodstream or the blood vessel. That is a muscle there. My bad, guys. I'm pretty bad at drawing. But that is the muscle. So the postganglionic synapse releases norepinephrine. Preganglionic synapse releases acetylcholine. And the sympathetic division is called the thoracocolumbar division. And it's because that they're all released, all the motor division is released from the back, the thoracic part and the lumbar part, giving a longer post-ganglionic axon chain to reach more effectors. So a short pre and a long post. So here we have the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the rest and digest part of the nervous system. It stimulates digestion while after you eat like a big meal, something like that. You sit down, you watch TV, read a book. It starts the digestion. pupils become dilated so an image can look better. We also have the blood pressure. It's at a normal rate, while the body is more in a relaxed state. So after you eat a big meal, it's nice to sit down and relax and let the body start digesting it. So now we move on to the sympathetic nervous system, commonly known as the fight or flight. So imagine yourself walking to your car late at night and somebody tries to mug you, or you're outside taking a hike and a bear starts chasing after you. What are you going to do? Are you going to fight or are you going to run away? That's when this kicks in. So it inhibits digestion, but really what that means is any bodily secretion basically stops being made. Everything gets shut down. That includes saliva, urine, mucus, allowing the body to focus on just being ready and make a decision. We then have the pupils become dilated. What that means is just it tries to enhance the vision by allowing more color into the eyes, just allowing you to see better. What are you going to do next? That kind of stuff. Then you got the blood pressure and the heart rate. They become pretty high. That's more for allowing oxygen to go to the muscles and into the heart, allowing you to run faster or do whatever you have to do to get out of the way or fight it off. And the body's at an alert state. So, when you're just sitting, when you're standing there or about to fight, whatever you're going to do. So here's a nice little picture, a visual of what I just explained. You can see where all the arrows are pointing to. Basically, the two main things you want to get out of this is that the sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. The parasympathetic is rest and digest, and that they're basically opposites of each other. That's the main focus on that. And if you want to pause the video and look at it a little bit more, feel free. Now we have the receptors. There's 5 adrenergic receptors, starting with A1, also called alpha 1. The location of those is all the sympathetic organs except the heart. So the kidneys, anything except the heart, pretty much, that's a sympathetic organ. The response is excitation, so pupil dilation, that's an example. Vasoconstriction, another example. Alpha 2, also known as A2, that's found on platelets, and its response really is just to inhibit norepinephrine and to promote blood clotting. And so beta 1 of the adrenergic receptors is found on the heart and blood vessels. This makes the heart beat faster as well as dilate the arteries. The heart will slow down if there's no norepinephrine going to it. So that's what beta 1 receptors do. They send norepinephrine to the heart and make it beat faster. And the last 2 of the adrenergic receptors, beta 2, is found in the lungs and the blood vessels of the heart. Basically, it dilates the blood vessels in the heart and dilates the bronchi in the lungs. It opens it up, lets more oxygen get through. Beta 3 is found on adipose tissue, and all it really does is stimulate lipolysis, which burns fat. And now in our second class of receptors, we have cholinergic receptors. Nicotinic, all ganglionic neurons and neuromuscular junction, that's where it's found. And it excites, basically a nicotine buzz, if you've ever done any of that kind of stuff. And then you have the muscarinic, and that's found in the eccrine sweat glands, blood vessels, and skeletal muscles. And basically that just excites some cardiac muscles, and then it does shut down some of your skin receptors, making your hands kind of clammy and sweaty. And that's it for cholinergic receptors. So now we have control of autonomic functioning, and it's separated into four parts. The brainstem, you have the medulla oblongata, and that regulates the heart rate. The medulla also does respiration, but the pons does help out with that. The spinal cord, the sympathetic is responsible for like ejaculation and vaginal spasms, as the parasympathetic is for erections and reflexes of that sort of nature. And then we have the hypothalamic controls. That's basically over all the homeostatic variables like blood pressure, fear, sex drives, that kind of stuff. And then we have the cortical controls. That's where like you close your eyes and you use thoughts to try and slow down your heart rate or your blood pressure by just consciously just trying to relax yourself from the mind.